Though this is the fourth year of Senior Spotlight, the class of 2020 will feature a series of firsts. While every senior we've ever featured has been unique and memorable in his or her own ways, the word prodigy hasn't come up in a Senior Spotlight script. Yet there is no more apt a descriptor for this student. In this episode of Senior Spotlight, we travel to Washington High School, where one senior's incredible talent is making a worldwide impression, but it's his nature that's making him unforgettable. In April of 2018, the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz and the National Peer-to-Peer All-Star Jazz Sextet came to Sioux Falls to perform at and put on workshops with our high schools. K-Learn TV recorded this session at Roosevelt. It was a priceless opportunity for our high school students to experience. But when the group got to the workshop portion of the program at Washington High School that year, these tremendous musicians had an incredible experience of their own. It sounded something like this.
During 2017-18 school year, the Thelonious Monk Peer-to-Peer Jazz Sextet education program selected Sioux Falls as a destination that they were going to bring that program here. They came, and as a part of their performance, they do a clinic with the host school's jazz ensemble. And so, as that was coming up towards us, I got really excited because I know that Emmanuel's a world-class talent, and I was like, they're gonna hear this, and like, this is gonna be a huge moment for him. And so they do their performance. It was amazing. They were all great players, great to work with, did a great job with the presentation. And then we get to the clinic part, and just the moment of watching these kids from around the country who are really, really talented, and the adult professional musicians that brought them here, watching them hear Emmanuel play and like sort of looking around at each other and then looking at him and then sort of having a moment of realization like, wow, this kid is really doing something, it was something I'll never forget. And it was just a really cool moment. And it was through basically that clinic exposure that Emmanuel was even given the opportunity to audition. That peer-to-peer jazz education sextet is typically an opportunity reserved only for students who are a part of a performing arts high school. And so it wouldn't traditionally be open to someone like Emmanuel who goes to just public high school. But they heard him play and they were like, man, this kid needs to do this. And so they allowed him to audition for it, and then he was selected for the 2018-19 school year, which was an unbelievable opportunity for him. He traveled with the group to Tulsa and Oklahoma City and had a great time, met a lot of great kids, and had the opportunity to talk about jazz and demonstrate jazz to high schoolers down in Oklahoma.
So you're a part of a combo of high-level playing student jazz musicians, and on top of that, you are put in front of a jazz master. And for my year, it was Steve Wilson, a saxophonist from New York, and he's done hundreds of session work on top of just building his career off of incredible playing and musicality. And we had a singer with us named Lisa Henry, and we toured through the schools in Oklahoma and for a week. And
turned out to be just the first incredible trip his talent would take him on. Next came Carnegie Hall in New York City and a 2-week tour of Asia.
Last spring, Emmanuel auditioned for and was accepted to a program called NYO Jazz. NYO stands for National Youth Orchestra. So this is a big band that is selected from a national audition pool, and he was selected as one of 2 guitarists from, again, a national pool of auditions. And so this summer he traveled to New York City, actually Purchase, New York, which is just north of New York City, where this group convened and rehearsed for 2 weeks with a group of all-star clinicians and teachers.
A very selective and intense audition process filled with essays and playing and interviews. So you and 23 other high school jazz musicians go to New York for 2 weeks and rehearse with really top professional musicians like Dan Wilson, Shami Royston, Wycliffe Gordon, Matthew Stevens, and you go rehearse in New York for 2 weeks and you sightsee and you get to know the ensemble as people too, just by being around them 24/7 and 10-hour rehearsal days. And it's really fun since you're playing at such a high level and everyone just loves each other. But then after the 2 weeks in New York rehearsing, we perform at Carnegie Hall and we were on tour. Then we begin our tour with a trumpet player named Sean Jones and the Grammy Award-winning singer Kurt Elling, and we toured Asia for another 2 weeks. And for my iteration of NYO, we went to Taiwan for the first week and China for the second week. It was really amazing, and I felt really fortunate to have that opportunity. Everyone in the group is family now, and I guess in music I've always wanted to have a strong family, and with groups like NYO and the Herbie Hancock Institute, they've allowed me to have really strong family in music, especially with people my age. And a lot of those people that I've played with in the higher levels, I've been looking up to them for years. Getting to meet a lot of them was amazing, and getting to befriend them and get them to call me their brother and stuff like that, and laughing endlessly and just touring the world. I think that itself is something that a lot of people won't get to experience throughout their life.
Not bad for someone who picked up a guitar for the first time in 8th grade.
The jazz band at Patrick Henry Middle School needed a guitar player. They didn't have anyone. And so his band director thought, Emmanuel seems like a good musician. Maybe I'll ask him to do it. And so they gave him a guitar that the school owned, and they gave him the audition music. And he talks about going home the night before the audition and looking up stuff on YouTube and trying to figure it out. And so from that moment on, he taught himself how to play. He doesn't have a guitar teacher. He doesn't take lessons regularly. It's all just his desire and his ears and his talent, and it's remarkable. So he started playing in 8th grade. So yeah, this would be maybe the 5th year that he's a guitarist.
Emmanuel's humility is readily apparent, and you'll soon see much more of it. His gratitude is just as strong.
The day before jazz band auditions, I went up to my former middle school director, Mr. Szymanski, and I asked for the guitar music. And I had an acoustic guitar, but I never really picked it up and learned it. So I got the guitar music and I learned whatever was on the audition for the guitar for jazz band. And I stayed up all night, but it felt good. And I played it awfully, but he let me into the jazz band, which I'm forever grateful for, because without that, I probably wouldn't have continued to play.
He obviously chose to continue. Today, he fills his hours with ensembles at Washington, which include playing in the band for the show choir. And
Emmanuel is a member of the marching band. He's the drum major, or one of our drum majors, which is sort of the people that direct the marching band. This is his second year as the drum major. He's also a guitarist in Jazz 1, which he has been for all 4 of his years at Washington. He plays tuba in symphonic band, which is, this is his second year as a symphonic band member. He is a member of Jazz Combo.
Drum majors Emmanuel Michael, Adam Clancy, and Cassandra Fox. Is your band ready?
Everything in marching band is led up to the students, and the drum major is the leading role, and we are the conductors of the band. And that's what we do during performances. But other than that, outside of performances, we are usually in charge of the student body, and we are the first responders to the student body before they go to the director. And other than being an example of how to be a good person, or at least trying to, it's really looked upon you to make sure that the morale of the band is up, because it's very easy for students to get down with schoolwork and their personal life and just social life with each other. So as a drum major, it's your responsibility to keep the morale up in individuals and especially in the overall group. Once that is kept up, everything else just flows naturally.
he's been one of the leaders of the marching band for the last 2 years as a drum major, but before that, he played the saxophone. Before that, he played percussion. But if you ask him about those, about tuba, about guitar, and how many instruments he actually plays,
I don't know, I don't count. I don't play any instruments, I just barely hold them, and Mrs. Coyne and Mr. Harder allow me to make sound with them, so I really appreciate that.
allow and request are actually two very different things. His place in the music program here is highly valued.
Aside from being a wonderful guitarist and tuba player, he has an extraordinary sense of musicality, I guess you maybe would say. He's a very sensitive member of the ensemble. He's always listening and taking direction and helping the people around him to be better, and he's just very attentive to the task of music making, which as a teacher, that's the ideal. That's what you want out of every member of your ensemble, is to be that attentive and that focused on making the ensemble better. It's hard to tell, where it comes from or what his particular gift is, but I think it's his ears. Honestly, he hears music in such a way that, it's on another level than you or I hear music. He can hear and understand music and relate it to his hands and his guitar just as seamlessly as anyone that I know or that I've been around before. Yeah, it elevates everyone else around him. It's not necessarily that they're trying to live up to his example or that they're hoping to keep up with him, but he's just such a positive force and such a driven and focused member of the group that it affects the attitude and the feeling in the rehearsal of those groups, where everyone else is more focused because they know that he's going to be focused and he's going to be working to get better, so they feel like that's what they need to be doing as well.
And unsurprisingly, it's not just in the music department. Emmanuel will have completed several advanced placement courses by the time he graduates in the spring, but again, it's not something he really keeps track of. He's not taking them for the college credits.
I just take AP classes not only is it a good way to test yourself and push yourself in a really advanced way, but it's just another way to widen your perspective on things. Usually in AP classes, they go really in depth with whatever they might be talking about, and throughout my high school career, I've taken multiple social studies AP classes, and that's really helped me with having an overall sense of what's going on in the world and how to view the world. And if you have an understanding and perspective of history and just how people function and how they have functioned in different societies and stuff like that, I feel like you can grow as a person and see the truth rather than maybe a biased side or two sides.
And the truth is, whether you've known him for his entire high school career or just for a few weeks in your AP Government and Politics class, he's someone everyone wants to be around.
He is a very conscientious student who really works hard. He is very attentive to what we're doing in class. He loves to participate and talk about his ideas and everything in government. So really just an enjoyable kid to have in class. For other students, I think Emmanuel is really a kid who encourages other kids and brings them into the fold and into the discussion and really just kind of helps keep everybody moving.
It helps that Sioux Falls School District schools like Washington highly encourage students to challenge themselves with AP courses and especially to get involved in activities throughout their career.
I think the kids that are more involved actually end up doing a lot better in everything. So a kid who is so heavily involved, it learns a lot of skills in time management and everything else. And I think the school definitely supports those kids that want to be involved. And we encourage it from the time they're freshmen all the way to the time they're seniors. We want kids to be involved because we know that a kid who's involved generally does better in everything that they do.
But there's no denying the something special the band program at Washington is getting to be a part of while Emmanuel is here. Naturally, he doesn't see it like that.
The program here at Washington is the absolute best program for me because it allowed me to do all these groups, and a lot of it interfered with conflicting schedules of groups and ensembles. I wasn't here at Washington, but Mrs. Coyne and Mr. Harder, worked with me on that, and they let whatever groups that I auditioned for and made, happen. The student body here is really, really good, and it's only getting exponentially better, and it's something that I'm very happy to see. Mrs. Coyne and Mr. Harder have worked extremely hard to make the overall vibe here with the student body something really positive, where students support each other and push each other in a really positive, loving way instead of battling each other for placement and stuff like that. No one views it like that here. No one's been taught to view it like that here. And yeah, what Mrs. Coyne and Mr. Harder are doing is really just teaching these students how to love through something like music. Music is all love, and we just do it for fun. And by fun, I mean it's an expression of humans, so that's fun. Whatever you want to do, you just need to see truth in it. And for playing the music that I might play in, I just listen to it a lot. It's like a language, so if you listen to it a lot and you hear people speak it, eventually you'll speak it too.
The next steps in Emmanuel's journey when he graduates in the spring are either still being decided or are a closely guarded secret. We can't tell which.
We'll find out. I'm not quite sure. Well, I have ideas, but we'll find out eventually. Well, definitely gonna go to college, and I'll leave it at that.
He's gonna go as far as he wants and do whatever he wants in music. Honestly, that's my feeling about it. The only thing that's going to limit him is his own imagination and his own desire. But he's got the talent to do anything and go anywhere, which is awesome. If you look at those kids that have been through the program, both the Monk Institute and NYO, they're these are people that are have record deals and are really doing it. So.
But there is no confusion about his upward trajectory.
Based on what I've seen, he's a student who's very well set up for success going beyond high school into college and into whatever endeavor he's really looking at. He's a kid that has challenged himself and And I just really see him going forward and being very, very successful in whatever he chooses to do.
Or about what he'll leave behind at Washington High School.
He's just such a caring and empathetic and charismatic team member. Like, it would be easy for someone with his level of talent to be arrogant and have an ego and say, I'm too good for this, and I don't, and that's, you will never ever hear that from Emmanuel. And he really, really wants every kid in our band to be a great musician, and he wants to do anything he can to help them get there. And that's such a great attitude, and that attitude is gonna really serve him well going forward.
I hope underclassmen realize what truth is. Truth doesn't have one or two sides or three sides. Truth is all sides. And I feel like music is a prime example of what truth can look like. It's not just two sides or four sides, it's all sides. So, whether it be that they're putting themselves down intentionally or unintentionally, or they just don't have the confidence to do something, or someone is having a really bad day. I want students to be aware of their surroundings and aware of themselves, to find truth within themselves and other people, to not only grow as an individual, but to grow as a person who can make relationships with other people. I feel like that's a lifelong lesson. If you can learn, how people act and what people mean by certain things and what their truth is, you can apply that to your truth, and you can only grow from there.
He's a fantastic kid. Outside of his extraordinary, prodigious talent, I would, if he were even not a very good instrumentalist, I would still love to have him around, because he's very kind to his peers, very respectful to peers and adults, like, funny, charismatic, just fun to be around. He's just a wonderful kid.
Just a great kid, and just somebody that, you'd want a classroom full of that type of kid, and that's always an exciting thing to have.
The legacy that he's gonna leave here will be less defined by his amazing talent and guitar playing, and more defined by what he was able to do for the culture and the climate of our band program, and the individual work that he did with students, as opposed to the quality of his playing.